my name's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my picks for the 2021 buzzwordathon challenge. So the buzzwordathon challenge is ran by Books and Lala, and down below I'll link her video where she explains the prompts and explains everything. Buzzwords are kind of like popular words that are used a lot in book titles, and you have to pick a book that has one of those words in the title. And there's a couple different ways to do it, but the way I decided to do it for me is as a reading challenge. So there's a buzzword for every month, and for each month of 2021 I'm going to pick a book to read for that month to complete the challenge that fits the prompt. I have decided to do this challenge as a way to kind of try and get through some of my backlog of physical books that I've purchased. So I'm going to be trying to pick a book from each category from a physical book that I already own. And I'm also going to be giving you guys recommendations for that prompt that I have already read, but that I think would work for someone else that wanted to do this challenge. All right, let's get started. So for the month of January, the buzzword is dream. I would probably recommend The Dreamers, which I read last year and I thought was a 5-star read. It's fantastic. For me, this is good. I've got Strangers with the Same Dream. This is one that I picked up at Salvation Army a while ago. I believe it's about Jewish pioneers that are found in a settlement in the land that would later become Israel. So this is a historical fiction about the historical event that I really don't know much about, and I think this will be a great one for me to read next month and get things started. All right, February. The prompt is a color. So it'd be a book with a color in the title. I would recommend Blues for Nightmares. That is one of my favorites from my adolescence. I talked about it in my young adult, underrated young adult books. As for me, let's see what I've got. All right, so I've got a couple options, but I've had this one for a long time. So I think I'm gonna go with Words in the Deep Blue. I don't remember what this is about. Let me look. Okay, this kind of sounds fun. So it looks like years ago, this girl had a crush on a guy and she was moving away. So she wrote a love letter to him and like hid it inside his favorite book in the bookshop his family owned. And then years later, she comes back to the city and she's going to work in the bookshop and she doesn't want to see him, I guess because he never responded to her love letter. I'm gonna guess he never got it. And it's gonna take her a super long time to figure that out, but whatever. But it looks like they both have some depressing things. Her brother drowned, and I guess they're in danger of losing the bookstore, his family. So they both got some stuff going on, and they're working in a bookstore together. And I think it's a romance, but that sounds really cute. And this was buried at the bottom of my stacks, and honestly, I forgot I ever bought it. So this will be my February book, Words in the Deep Blue. All right, March is the word time. So if I was recommending a book for you guys, I'd recommend The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Fantastic mystery thriller. For me, okay, I've got one called The Time Between Us. Is that the only one I have? Let me check my cart. Alright, I don't think this would be my first choice, but it appears to be the only one I have with time in the cover. Where did I even get this? I do not remember all this at all, and it looks like a really sappy romance. Ugh. Looks like there's a couple, and the girl lives in 1995 Chicago, and he lives in 2012 San Francisco, but he somehow has the unique ability to travel through time and space. They're starting a relationship, but they know that at any point the guy might get knocked back to his actual timeline. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of that stupid one with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. I think it's called The Lake House, where they're like putting the letters in the mailbox, but they live like several years apart in time. But all right, March, The Time Between Us. I have no memory of buying this thing whatsoever, so I have no idea where this came from. All right, so April is a book with something that is galaxy or space related in the title. So I would recommend either The Space Between Us, which was one of my favorite books of 2020, or Starry Eyes, which is another, stars in there. which is another YA book that I really loved. It didn't quite make it into my top 10, but it was up there. I would recommend either of those. Let's see what I've got. Okay, I think it would have to be this one? Holding Up the Universe, which I'm positive has nothing to do with space or anything, but it does have the word universe in the title. That's another one I've had for a while, so this'll do. The back of this book does not tell me anything about it, except it says an exhilarating love story that asks, as scary as it is to go after dreams, is it even scarier not to? Libby is the girl whose name everyone knows, but no one really sees her except Jack. And Jack is the guy who's friends with everyone, but he doesn't let anyone in, except Libby. The two make an unlikely pair, and yet they just might be able to change each other's worlds. So this goes back and forth between Libby and Jack's perspective. I don't know. I do remember buying this. Okay, this is gonna be April. This is gonna be April. All right, number 5 is a book with the word house or home in the title. I would recommend Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. That is an amazing one of my 10 favorites of 2020. Alright, I'm gonna do Welcome to the Dark House by Lori Ferrier-Stolars. It's kind of a funny story how I came to be in possession of this book. This is the author that wrote Blues for Nightmares, and I follow her on Instagram. Back a few weeks ago, she did a Black Friday thing where if anyone bought a copy of her book Jane Anonymous and sent her proof of the receipt, she would send them a book. So I did this, and she emailed me back asking me which of her books I had and didn't have. And I told her that I actually had a copy. This is a series. I have the second one, which is called Return to the Dark House, but I did not have the first one. And I had looked for it on Amazon, and I don't know if it's out of print, but it was like $30 for the physical copy. And I was like, ugh. So I asked her, I was like, is there any way you can send me like a copy? Welcome to the Dark House. Thinking she might have one. And I don't know, she must have dug this out of her basement or something, which was really nice of her. But this is actually an arc of this book, even though it came out in 2014. But now I have this, so this will be my May book. And I think she actually, yes, she did. She actually autographed it for me, which was super nice of her, and I really appreciate this. So this will be my May book. All right, for June, a book with a name or a title. I have quite a few I could recommend. I wrote down The Death of Mrs. Westaway, which is my second favorite Ruth Ware. I think it's really good. It's got this like spooky, when I was reading this book, I remember the whole time I felt like cold because the character's always like cold and in the rain, and I don't know, it just made me feel like very cozy to be like wrapped up in a blanket while reading The Death of Mrs. Westaway, so I would recommend that one. I'm pretty sure I've got several options. I've got Eleanor and Park, Mrs. Dalloway. Oh, you know what? I know what I'm gonna read. I'm gonna do When Dimple Met Rishi. I wanted to read this for a while, and I snagged this copy from a little free library in my neighborhood. When Dimple Met Rishi will be my June book. So it's like Dimple is a girl who is attending a summer program for aspiring web developers, and she has an Indian family that talks a lot about finding her the ideal Indian husband. So it looks like they're in an arranged relationship, but their parents don't actually like intend for them to meet super early and like start the relationship, but then they go to the same summer program and start actually falling for each other. So that sounds, I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've seen it a lot on Instagram, and it seems like a lot of people like it, so I'm gonna put that in my stack. All right, for July, a book with the word last in the title. So there's a bunch of these. First one that comes to my mind for recommendation is The Last Flight, which I read a couple months ago. Just a really good mystery thriller about these two women that are both trying to escape their lives for various reasons, and they meet at the airport and switch identities and get on each other's planes to just kind of try and escape their own lives without a trace. For me, alright, I knew this was going to happen to me at some point where I was going to like find a book that, despite the fact that it's in my TBR pile, I don't really want to read. But I have got The Last Little Blue Envelope by Maureen Johnson. I bought this at the same time as I bought 13 Little Blue Envelopes, and it was one of my not very common 1-star reads. I did not like that book at all. But there's a sequel, and when I bought the other one at Goodwill, I found them both together at Goodwill, so I bought them both, and this appears to be my only book with last in the title. So, yay me. All right, August. August, I need to find a book with the time of day in the title. So recommendations, I would recommend Goodnight Beautiful, which I just read and thought was really interesting. Let me see what I've got. You would think I'd have them all memorized by now, but I don't. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I changed it. I have this one. It's called The Last Mrs. Parrish. It is a Reese's Book Club, and I believe it's a mystery thriller. I'm not reading this. My July book is going to be The Last Mrs. Parrish. I'm really not seeing one. Yeah, I've gone over these twice, and I am not seeing anything with the time of day. I've got several that have the word day. I'm supposed to be looking for a time of day, like morning, evening, night. I'm gonna go check some books I have, physical books I have other places. Yeah, this is the first time this has happened. I do not seem to have a copy of a book that I have not read yet that has the word, like has a time of day in the title. So I will have to add that one in later. So August is still to be determined. All right, September is the word dark. So again, you could use Home Before Dark for this one. Another one I recommend a lot is Radium Girls, which dark's not in Radium Girls, but the full title is Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women. So I think you technically could do that one. For me, I'm gonna have to restack these. They're looking really rough. When my month-long book purchase ban is over, I'm gonna have to, restock them a bit. It's not the point of this challenge, but that's probably what's gonna happen. I have this book called The Darkest Corners. I have no memory of purchasing this. This is bad. So there's a girl named Tessa, and she's returning to a town she left when she was 9 years old, and she has been back since. And there's a girl, Callie, that's there as well. And Tessa and Callie, it looks like they both saw something, and they've never talked about it, and it looks like they're getting back in touch, and there's a killer. I have not read anything by this author, but I do have another book by her on my TBR, in my TBR stacks. So we'll see how this goes, but this is for September. And then for October, it has to be an element, so like earth, air, fire, water, or like something connected to like ocean, sea, wind, air, anything like that. And I already know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do Lady in the Lake by Laura Lippman. I'm gonna say I was looking forward to reading this, but this isn't until October, so I guess I'm gonna be hanging on to this one for a while. I've read quite a few Laura Lippmans. This is the newest one that she currently has. It came out last month. I found this lovely pristine copy in Salvation Army back when I was going to Salvation Army. I've liked her books in the past. She's one of my sister's favorite authors. For my recommendations, I would recommend The Last True Poets of the Sea, because apparently I like water as an element, even though I'm a Capricorn, which is an earth sign, and I'm definitely an earth sign. But there you have it. And then for November, books with the title Lost in it. For my recommendation, I had to dig kind of deep to find a recommendation. I don't know that I've seen, I'm kind of worried I don't have a Lost one in here. My recommendation would be the book Wild, the full title of which is Wild, From Lost to Found on the Pacific Coast Trail. Let's see what I've got. Yeah, that's another one. I'm gonna check my Kindle, because I have some Kindle books like stored up that I've purchased at one point or another but have not read. So I might see for, what was it? Yeah, August and November, see if I can find books for those prompts, because I cannot find a book with the word lost in the title. Well, we will move on to December. Buzzword for December is a day, month, or season. So my recommendation for that is one that I don't think I've talked about on my channel before. It's called A Fall of Marigolds. And I read this a year or two ago, I think I bought it on a whim. Fall is a season. This book takes place in two timelines. There's two women, both in New York City. One of them was a recent survivor of the Diamond Shirtwaist Factory, and the other one lost her husband in 9/11. So it's these two women that both have lived through these tragedies and experienced a great deal of loss from them. and they kind of have these parallel stories and they end up to be connected, and I thought it was good. I haven't read it in a while. I loaned it to my sister, but if you're looking for one, I'd recommend that. Me, I am gonna read, and I know I have one for this. 3 Day Summer. This just looks like your typical silly YA good girl, rebellious, undecided boy that just finished high school. I just think it seems fun and light, and it'll be a fun one to read a year from now. I'm realizing I'm picking out this book and I'm gonna read it in a year to complete this challenge. So I have 10 books from my stash that I'm gonna be reading next year. And I'll probably do like a monthly update and then a video at the very end of the year talking about how I met the challenge. I'm still gonna have to find books for August and November, but these are 10 of the 12 I will be reading, and I'll update you guys later. Thanks, bye.